After you, gentlemen.
Hey look, boss, this Colley guy's a Harvard graduate.
Yes, Dr. Colley's a legend in his field. He finished in the top of his class. Published his first book on delusional pathologies at the age of 20. He's also been consulted by Scotland Yard, MI5, and the OSS.
Why?
Why what?
Why the OSS? What kind of work would need a psychiatrist's consultation?
Sorry, Marshal, that's classified.
Marshal Daniels, Marshal Raoul, glad you could come so quickly. Sorry I'm late. That'll be all for now, Mr. McPherson.
Yes, sir. Pleasure, gentlemen.
He's a good man, McPherson. Eager.
For?
For the work. A moral fusion between law and order and clinical care. Just half a century ago, even less in some cases, the thinking of the kind of patients we deal with here was that they could, at best, be shackled and left in their own filth and waste. They were systematically beaten, as if they could drive the psychosis out. We demonized them, we tortured them, spread them on racks, yes, drove screws into their brains, even drowned them on occasion.
And now?
We treat them, morally, to heal and to cure. And if that fails, we at least try to provide them with a measure of calm in their lives.
And the victims? They were violent offenders, right?
Quite violent.
So they've hurt people, murdered them in many cases.
Oh, in most.
So why does this sense of calm matter?
Because it is my job to treat them, not their victims. So did the senator explain the situation?
We don't know anything about a senator, Doctor. We were assigned by the state field office.
My mistake then. What have you been told?
We know a female prisoner is missing. Rachel Solando.
Patient.
Patient. I apologize. I understand she's escaped within the last 24 hours?
Last night, between 10 and midnight.
And she still hasn't been found?
Correct, Marshal.
Is Mrs. Solando considered dangerous?
All our patients have shown a proclivity for violence. That's why they're here. Rachel Solando was a war widow. She drowned her 3 children in the lake behind her house, took them out there one by one, and held their heads under until they died. Then she brought them back into the house and arranged them around the kitchen table and ate a meal there before a neighbor dropped by.
She killed the neighbor?
No, invited him to sit and have breakfast with them. He declined naturally and called the police. Rachel still believes the children are alive, waiting for her. It might explain why she's tried to escape.
To return home?
Yes.
And where's that?
A small town in the Berkshires, roughly 150 miles from here.
And you searched the grounds?
Yes.
Pretty thoroughly.
The warden and his men and a detail of orderlies spent the night and a good part of the morning scouring the island and every building and institution. Not a trace. What's even more disturbing is that we can't tell how she got out of her room. It was locked from the outside and its sole window was barred. We've no indication that the locks were tampered with. It's as she evaporated straight through the walls.
And you're sure she was in a room with lights out?
Positive.
How so?
Mr. Ganton should be here shortly. He can explain what happened probably better than I can. He's the head orderly here. It was Mr. Ganton who escorted Rachel to her room last night.
Alright. You wouldn't happen to have any aspirin around here, would you?
Prone to headaches, Marshal?
Prone to seasickness, unfortunately.
Ah, dehydrated. Here you go. Mr. Ganton, these are the 2 gentlemen I was talking about, Raoul and Daniels.
Hi, Marshals.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Ganton. Why don't you tell us what happened last night?
Well, there was group at 9 o'clock, which ended around 10. I escorted Miss Rachel up to her room. She went inside. I looked locked up from outside. We do checks every 2 hours during lights out. I go back at midnight. I look in and her bed's empty. I figure maybe she's on the floor. I open the door and go in. Miss Rachel ain't nowhere to be found. I shut the door and check the window and the bars. They're locked tight too.
Thank you, Mr. Ganton. That'll be all.
Thank you, Doctor.
I think we should see the room now, Doctor.
Of course. Follow me.
Who else would have access to the room?
At that time of night, very few would have any reason to be in the ward.
Sure, but who would have access?
The orderlies, of course.
Doctors?
Well, nurses.
Doctors don't have keys for this room?
They do, but by 10 o'clock, The doctors have usually signed out by then.
We're gonna need to check last night's sign-in log, along with the personnel files of the medical staff and the orderlies and the guards. We need access to all those.
Why?
A woman disappears from a locked room, escapes onto a tiny island and no one can find her. I have to at least consider the possibility that she had help.
We'll see.
We'll see!
Yes, Marshal. I'll have to speak with the warden and some of the other staff. We'll make a determination of your request based on...
Doctor, it wasn't a request. We're here by order of the government. This is a federal facility from which a dangerous prisoner, patient, has escaped.
Yes, well, all I can say is that I will do all that I can to accommodate your request.
How many pairs of shoes are the patients given?
2.
She left this room barefoot?
Yes. We also found this behind the dresser. We don't know what it means. We're hoping someone could tell us.
Hell if I know.
Quite similar to our clinical conclusion. We have no theories on what either clue means.
None whatsoever.
Not at all. Rachel is quite brilliant in her conceived delusions. She continues to believe her 3 children are alive, where they still live together in the Berkshires and we're all just delivery men, milkmen, postal workers, passing by. Whatever the reality, she uses sheer force of will to make her illusions stronger.
How does the truth never get through? I mean, she's in a mental institution.
Ah, now we're getting into the true horrible beauty of the full-blown schizophrenic's paranoid structure. If you believe anything, gentlemen, that you are the sole holder of truth, then everyone else must be lying. And if everyone is lying,
Then any truth they say must be a lie.
you're getting it.
And that somehow plays into these numbers?
It must. If they have to represent something, this, I sincerely believe, will tell us where she's going. Excuse me, gentlemen, but I have a meeting. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask any of the staff or visit McPherson. He's handled the search thus far. He should have all the information you need. Around 7 o'clock, I've arranged for everyone to assemble here in the staff lounge so you can speak to anyone who was working during last night's incident.
Jesus, boss, is there anything about this that doesn't feel like an inside job?
Come on, Chuck. Let's go see McPherson.